some point in the last 24, 36 hours, there was a rumor going around that the officer broke his eye socket. Now there's a source that says he didn't break his eye socket. I am more ashamed of the national news media than I am of the local media. I think the local media has done a fantastic job of reporting what is fact. There's a whole bunch of information that is sort of behind the scenes and on Twitter and all that stuff that has no basis in fact. We all knew the call from Josie was out there, and yet CNN was the first one to sort of play it, and then everyone had to respond on it. It's a real. I mean, we're all kind of chasing our own tail. One of the best is Stephen Portnoy with ABC News. Good morning, Stephen Portnoy.
Hey, good morning to you, McGraw.
All right, what's going on? It seems like we've turned another corner, right? Things are really starting to settle down out in Ferguson.
It certainly feels that way, to be sure. Only 7 arrests overnight, 6 the night before. The National Guard has begun to pack up from the mall parking lot where they'd been positioned to protect the police presence. And on the whole, it feels like things have turned a corner, but Captain Ron Johnson says that he's living in the now, doesn't want to think about what tomorrow or Sunday or Monday will be like with the funeral. For now, the focus is on making sure that things continue to stay calm.
Any idea if the weather played a role in it, or did it just sort of play itself out?
Hello?
Yeah. Are you there? Yeah. Was it the weather?
I'm sorry, McGraw. I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. Was it the weather, or did the energy of the crowd sort of finally subside?
You know, I think it was a combination of the two. I think it was the fact that it was the hot weather, the rain the night before last, but really more than anything, and I think Attorney General Eric Holder spoke to this yesterday when he returned to D.C., it's the notion that he was here, that Ron Johnson was in the community. The people of the Ferguson and North County area who've been marching in the streets have had a grievance that they have wanted aired. And Attorney General Holder said yesterday upon returning to D.C. that he is standing with Ferguson. I think the message he's sending there is not necessarily about the particular case involving Officer Wilson, but about the notion that the people in the streets say, and in African-American communities all across the country say, that they have been unfairly mischaracterized by law enforcement and treated and handled a certain way by police officers, and they've had enough of it. And Attorney General Holder said that he understands better than any of his predecessors the mutual mistrust that occurs between members of the African-American community towards law enforcement and members of the law enforcement community towards African-Americans. He says that conversation must continue.
Did he meet with the Brown family at all?
Not as far as we know, not at all.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We're having some difficulty. If you could repeat the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stephen. We're in the new studio, so we have a couple of kinks to work out. Do we know if he met with the Browns at all, the family?
Yes, he did meet with the family of Michael Brown. I have been asked this morning whether he met with Officer Wilson's family. The answer to that is no.
Yeah. There's been a couple of people who have pointed out that the Nixon has met with them, Captain Johnson has met with the family, Eric Holder's met with the family, and none of them seem to have reached out to the officer or the officer's family. It seems like there's a little bit of double standard going on.
Well, I think that question is being asked all across the country about the propriety of Eric Holder's personal involvement in this. Questions about Governor Nixon saying in the statement this week that there ought to be a vigorous prosecution in this case. And you've heard the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, tell us that the politicians have been far too quick to prejudge this circumstance. I think with Bob McCullough, he wants to present all the evidence to the county grand jury. That includes some evidence, like, for example, the injury to Officer Wilson's face, the cell phone video that has been talked about on the internet, we've mentioned it on the air, of a man who's heard off mic saying it looked like Michael Brown came back towards the officer. So all of this evidence, McCullough says, will be presented to the grand jury. As you've discussed this week, we wouldn't expect an indictment vote in the grand jury until mid-October.
Let's talk about Bob McCullough. There have been protests outside the Justice Building every day in Clayton. What is the status with that? And also Jamila Lashid also presenting a petition to have him removed from the investigation.
Yeah, 70,000 signatures on that petition, and quite a scene outside the Justice Center yesterday. But the bottom line is McCullough has told you guys on KTRS the other day he's not stepping aside. He said as much yesterday again. And it was funny because the state senator was using the phrase "man up," the same phrase that Bob McCullough used. They're obviously both on different sides of this question, whether McCullough should step aside or be removed from the case. And yesterday, Governor Nixon reportedly said that he would not use his emergency powers to order Bob McCullough to recuse himself or to appoint another kind of prosecutor. So it looks like it's McCullough's case.
Yeah, and Nixon has been. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's been cryptic in his statement, saying that he was going to let Bob McCullough try the case, but he had a prepared statement, and then he had to send out a statement qualifying his statement that was prepared and videotaped.
Yeah, I would tell you, as a national reporter, there's a lot of criticism of Governor Nixon's handling of all this. But perhaps the best decision he made was appointing Ron Johnson to be the public face of the police presence. I think that really did have a calming effect on the protest. That's
Stephen Portnoy. Stephen, live in Ferguson. Great job as always, and I'm sure we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, you bet.
That's Stephen Portnoy, ABC News correspondent, who is one of the best. And ABC News has been great throughout all of this. Mm-hmm. But it's the leaked. It's almost like, I get we're having an off-air conversation, but when you crack the mic and you go on the air and you say Josie from South County said this, and then play it, and then to have a national news outlet then dissect what some random nameless voice said on a radio show, it was interesting. It doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. There's no basis of fact. There's no basis of cross-examination.
Nothing's been verified.
Right. This is a hearsay of a hearsay of a hearsay. Mm-hmm. The girlfriend of the police officer's best friend told me. Interesting, but it doesn't mean anything.
And I'm surprised that national media.
I was shocked.
Are doing this.
Shocked.
And I do agree with you, not to pat Channel 5 or all the other stations on the back, but I really think that they have been doing as best a job as they can with this story.
I agree. I mean, we all hear rumors, and especially in St. Louis, where everybody knows everybody.
Right.
And, I got a buddy on the police force who told me this. I got a buddy who's the Ferguson Dilly clerk, and he told me this. I got a buddy who knows the family, and they told me this. I mean, so that's St. Louis. But,
right.
But to go on the radio and say, my dry cleaner plays golf with the guy who is the next door neighbor to Michael Brown, and I'm telling you, you know what he was telling me? He was telling me this. That would be just
irresponsible.
It would be irresponsible.
Yeah.
And yet, St. Louisans, we can chatter off the air all we want. That's not taking it to the airwaves.
Right.
So I applaud St. Louis, and I think some of the national media outlets have gotten this all wrong, and they're fevered to just sort of feed the beast.
And the danger of having 24-hour news, they need things to fill, whether it may be right or wrong.
You're right. And the danger of actually somebody saying something that might cause more trouble. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's as you said.
And people who aren't there, contributors who aren't even in Ferguson.
Right.
Who are commenting on stuff.
Yeah. All right. It's 7:30. Traffic, weather, news, all straight ahead. Broadcasting high atop Brentwood at the First World Studios located at University Tower. That's where KTRS is broadcasting.